Bruna, I think this is the first time you've spoken, so I just want to let you know that there's a 3-minute timer behind you, and when the time is up, you'll hear a beep.
Actually, I've spoken before, but it's been maybe a year, a little over a year, so I haven't been around very much.
Okay, could you tell us what city you live in?
Middleburg Heights.
Okay, thank you.
I've been a resident of Middleburg Heights now for 4 years, transplanted from Pennsylvania. And I can say it's a step up. Okay, several weeks ago, an SEL presentation was reviewed during the school board meeting that SEL instruction would begin in January of 2023. The first step of the SEL process uses the results of a student survey as a baseline promoting data collection. And so it begins. In the first week of October, a DAPP survey, which stands for Developmental Assets Profile, was given to 5th and 9th grade students. Parents were notified by email the Wednesday before the week of the survey distribution, hardly enough time for a working parent to be able to review the survey prior to their child taking it. There are a number of problems with how this was handled, in my opinion. This survey was in violation of 20 U.S. Code Section 1232H, Protection of Pupil Rights, and I have a copy that I can give to you. Subsection B specifically states that surveys are limited to revealing information about critical appraisals of other individuals with home respondents, close family relationships, about religious practices, affiliations, or beliefs of the student, etc. And you can read from the list that I will provide you. The school cannot use the excuse of copyright laws as a means of denying parents a copy of the survey, since parents are not using this information for resale. They duly have the right to have a copy under the U.S. Code and Ohio Revised Code 3313.60G before the survey is administered. As a result of my FOIA letter dated October 6th, requesting information about the DAPP survey, I received a file with emails between Ms. Lori Sanson, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, Director of Pupil Services, as well as the completed form and the cost of the services provided by Search Institute, which is the company who provided the survey form. There was no protection to safeguard that child's privacy, excuse me, in the form of a contract to prevent Search Institute from giving or selling this personal data to a third party or the government. So we have no idea what they do with that data. This is clearly against HIPAA laws. Also, I discovered that there were 2 versions of the survey, one with and one without expanded gender language. I and other parents apparently reviewed the survey without the gender expansion. I need to know if I will be getting a copy of both of them. And as it appears that this survey actually was given to the children, I'm saying the one with the gender expansion may have been given to the children. So my question is, why did Mrs. Sanson specifically request to be emailed the survey without the gender expansion? Because, per her request, and I quote, I have a few parents requesting to see it before allowing their student to participate on Monday. So I need to ask if I will, and when will I get both versions of the survey? Thank you.
Next, we have James Grosh.
Morning, community. I don't see Ed Gallup here. Ed Gallup from Fox 8 was hopefully going to be here tonight, but apparently he couldn't make it. Middleburg Heights. We have big problems in this district. This investigation on the hazing by Fox 8 and Ed Gallup, hopefully he'll get to the bottom of it. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. You know, it appears that this was all covered up by Tracy and this board. Did they cover up sexual assaults to protect an NFL prospect at the time? And students involved, is there any relations to anybody that's on this board? Those are things we need to know. Well, let's hope not. But it sure smells like a cover-up. It sure smells bad. Another subject, we have history teachers that come here and won't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. That just spits in the face of the veterans of our community, and there's a big veterans community and particularly Middleburg and Berea, and all our cities here, Brook Park, Middleburg, and Berea. There's a heavy veterans, and that just spits in their face coming here and not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's an 8th grade history teacher that does this. We have Marxist views being taught in our American history class right in this high school. Marxist curriculum being used, Marxist books, Marxist views on our American history. That's just sad. We have systemic wokeness here in this school system, on this board. Systemic wokeness is what we have here on this board. Transgender queer theory being forced down our kids' throats by the policy proposed by this extremist board. We're not trying to cancel the LGBT community as they would have you believe. That's a false narrative and a lie. We simply don't want our kids sexualized in grade schools and do not want pornography in our classrooms. That's what groomers do. Every speech for the LGBT theory mentions the high suicide rate. Well, that makes a lot of sense. They have mental issues and need professional counseling for this cult, this trend they've been sucked into. I'd ask again, I've mentioned it before, I'd ask for Tracy to resign. This district is not being served well. The grades are going down. I listened to you last speech, try to spin it, and it's just spin. And it's our kids deserve so much better in this district than what you're providing in this board. Thank you.
Next, we have Ed Dean. Mr. Dean, could you tell us what city you live in, please?
I'm sorry?
What city you live in, please?
Olmsted Falls.
Thank you.
Okay, on July 11th, at this school board meeting, I gave the school board copies of 3 state statutes, which the Berea School Board District is in violation. You gave the right of mass determination to the superintendent who never pledged allegiance to the state constitution or the federal constitution, subjecting them to violations of civil rights. I don't know if you have a law department, which probably you do. Did you run it by the law department? There are violations of established state statutes which you violated and ignored. You do not have and did not have an authorized medical person. 2 school board meetings ago, it was said by the superintendent that we don't make people wear masks, we just recommend. There's a legal notice sent to all school districts in the state of Ohio saying you can't even recommend. So I recommend, my recommendation is that you have your law department review the statutes which I physically gave the school board, review those because you're in violation of the established state law and subject to a 5th degree felony. This is not going away. I will not let it go away. It will be pursued. So if you want to do something on behalf of the kids, instead of violating the civil rights, instead of violating established state statutes, you may want to address this. I sent you a letter as of September 22nd in response to your response to me negating the points I was making, and I still haven't heard a response. And you can't say you didn't get it because I sent it certified. So I would appreciate a response to my letter of September 22nd, 2022. Thank you.
Next is Donna Calvi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ms. Calvi, can you tell us
Nice
what
one
city
day
you
that I
live
won't
in?
have to keep coming back to school anymore.
What city do you live in?
Brook Park.
Thank you.
But for now, I do want to address the whole community, the stakeholders as far as the families and children, the board, all the police department, law departments, you know, everybody who kind of silences people from talking about things. There is a legal precedent. And that legal precedent is the devices in classroom, Teachers sued the board for installing audio and visual recording devices in classrooms were in error because a classroom in a public school building is not intended for a teacher's exclusive and personal use. Therefore, the teacher could not have a reasonable expectation of privacy, and I can't believe that your teachers even have to stay quiet, because obviously it's a public school, so your teachers shouldn't have to be quiet either. That's the first thing. The second thing is we've already talked about, I've already come back since a year before the Case Western Reserve incident, begging for the staff to address ACEs and address the culture that's in the school that's predisposing our students to more than 4,600% more likely to become IV drug users in their lifetime and overdose fatality. Okay, these kids who are dying of overdoses, if they're present students or former students, I allege that it is you. It is your culture. It is the ignorance of treating state court injuries for some other DSM diagnosis. This SEL that you're trying to shove down everybody's throat, as far as I'm concerned, is to deflect from the ACEs that the school district has already evidentially failed to respond to appropriately. I had a meeting with Ms. Wheeler in December of 2019 before Kaylee Roberts died, and she said she's not going to deal with the ACEs because the teachers don't want to deal with the ACEs, so this is a big problem. You guys should not even be receiving kids in school. You should have parents' ACEs informed consent, and if you're not going to do anything about it, I am going to do something about it. I am going to stop you, and I'm going to stop you in your tracks. And thanks for the education so that I can do that.
Our last speaker is Dave Ceccarelli.
Excellence, integrity, purpose. The three words that we describe our district. What maybe would be some better three words would be accountable, transparent, and trustworthy. In the summer of 2019 at Case Western Reserve, I think we all know about the sexual assault of the student at the football camp. As far as I know, there was only one student that was charged and others were not due to the fact that they were minors. Not one staff member was held accountable. Everyone still kept their jobs and everyone went on their lives like as if nothing happened. Now there has been a lawsuit filed, and I'll read some of its content. This is more for the people watching on YouTube because I'm sure most of everybody's heard this already. As a result of negligent and reckless acts of omission of all defendants, there's 15 of them, by the way, the plaintiff was subject to bullying, hazing, harassment, and sexual assault. The reported disturbances alone show that the Berea defendants, including the coaching staff, were either not on site while the above described events transpired, or that they were so negligent and or reckless that they allowed these events to occur as part of the culture of hazing and abuse. The board and the district failed to discipline a single member of the coaching staff for their obvious failures, all in furtherance of maintaining a football program that was at all times valued above safety and security of the children it exploits. I can't read all of Mrs. Wheeler's response to the statement, but here's a clip. Due to the pending litigation, the district is unable to provide further details and will not be commenting publicly about the situation. Sounds to me like the board, the defendants, and the whole district wants to sweep this under the rug like they did 3 years ago. Thank you.